to Off the Record, talking real estate with Joe and Michaela. If you're interested in the Portland, Oregon real estate market and want the unvarnished inside scoop, you've come to the right place. Thanks for giving us a listen. Okay, everyone, welcome to the show. Hi, Michaela.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm really good.
We're a little punchy today.
Yes, we are. We had scheduled to start doing our pod about 2 hours ago, and life and business and all sorts of crazy stuff got in the way.
Also, we've been spending the better part of the last 30 minutes debating on what we want to talk about. So we decided to just turn the mics on and see what happens.
So we're leading with, and you probably saw the title and thought, I'm going to see what they have to say about this, but is the housing market going to crash?
No.
I say no, but Michaela wanted to say why we don't think the housing market's going to crash. And I don't think it's going to crash, but I think there could be bumpy waters for all of us. It's worth debating.
It's worth debating. Okay.
Yeah. So we're going to get into that, talk about what some of the fears are out there. We've been chat GPTing people. We've been riding the AI wave. Actually, what was cool was the highest read articles online. We pulled those when it came to real estate and what's going on. And so it's kind of interesting. You can kind of see what people are looking at. There was a JP Morgan article about what they thought. And
there's been a lot of really great articles that have come out this week. So there's been a lot to digest. And
as always, there's lots of, just crazy stuff going on in real estate. One of them was U.S. real estate firm CoStar prepares $1.7 billion bid for Australia's Domain. What's Domain, you ask? No one knows, but they're paying $1.7 billion for it.
I think Domain is like, oh, geez, you know what Domain is, and you're just going to let me try to say what I think it is.
Yeah, it's basically, it's like their
Zillow.
online. Yeah, they're Zillow.
Okay.
Australian Property Classifieds firm is what it officially is, but who knows? I have not been to Australia. Have you? No. I might go there just for Domain. CoStar, though, holy smokes, those guys are spending money. TheoHomes.com, who we recently talked to about different things, and a ton of other.
Who just ran a $6 million Super Bowl ad.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to take over Australia.
Good luck to them. Those Aussies are tough. So anyways, we're talking about what's going on in the marketplace. And, you clicked on here because we said, is the market going to crash? And, there's a lot of fear out there about a market crash. But today we're breaking down why we feel the way we do.
Yeah. Joe has been through, I feel like this should be a good caveat, right? Maybe. Joe has been through a lot of different types of markets, one of them being 2007, 2008.
That is a new and refreshing way on saying I'm old, but I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Trying to think of new ways.
Yep. I have been through a lot, and, real estate's been through all sorts of different cycles over the different years and stuff. But, 2008 to 2010 was no joke. It was rough. And the last 2.5 years that we're going through right now have also been pretty rough, but it's kind of been this like death by 1,000 stabs type of thing where it's like
long and slow.
Are the numbers are going down slowly. So as far as sales and inventory and this and that and the other, and all of a sudden, it's just a little bit worse every month. And all of a sudden you look at it and it's like, 50% down. And that's rough. But what does it all mean? Because that's why you guys tuned in. So, there are when we did the chat GPT of what people are looking at right now, we looked at most viewed pieces of real estate news this week. Is the economy going to crash and take down the housing market as well? Seems to be a hot topic right now, Michaela.
I spent most of my day on the interwebs reading very scary things, but a lot of them from very untrusted sources. People just, using it as clickbait. particularly this man in a tank top on YouTube screaming into the camera about why the market's going to crash. And
Housing market or general economy market?
Thank you for making me clarify the housing market.
Oh, okay. I did not see that one, but I woke up and had coffee this morning with my 2 older sons, and they shared with me the fact that, wow, the internet's saying that the economy is going to go sideways, Dad, and also the housing economy. How do you feel about that? And I'm like, wait, what?
You're like, let me finish my coffee.
Let me get to the bottom of my coffee cup.
And then we'll go through this crisis.
Yeah. So anyways, it's out there, and it's a big thing. Why people fear crash is obvious. It would be horrendous. 2008 to 2010 was really, really nasty. The 1980s had a stretch that were really, really nasty, and it's difficult. In 2008 to 2010, a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people lost their homes. Foreclosure was crazy, and it was a horrible, horrible time for a lot of people, and a horrible time for the industry. You could still buy, you could still sell, and sometimes people did extremely well because there's always opportunity in any marketplace, but in general, it was awful. So whenever we start having these conversations about things going horribly wrong and going south, it perks people's ears up.
Yeah.
You know? So we're going to give you our 2 cents on this.
Sounds good. Well, I think the best place to start is comparing our real estate climate now to 2008, 2007 even.
Yeah.
And one of the stats that we look at is inventory, and inventory is remaining low, but it's not anywhere near the inventory levels that were in 2008. So that's a good sign.
Yeah,
right?
kind
In
of,
theory,
sort of.
It's really hard to compare those two.
Yeah, it is hard to compare those two. And sometimes inventory stats are misleading. But yeah, for the most part, we're at 3.7 right now locally. 6 months of inventory is typically where we like to see things nice and balanced, but it's starting to come back a little bit. But here's the other side of it. That's a measurement of cycling out of the system, right? How long does it take to burn through the inventory you have? Right now, if we didn't put another home on the market, it would take 3.7 months to sell everything we had. But if sales are half what they were 2 years ago, that burn is much slower. So that 3.7 months of inventory, if we had the same burn that we did 2 years ago, it would be a much different number, right?
Right.
So it's kind of, you got to give and take with that. Home builders are another one, Mac, that I think a lot of people don't really understand the dynamic. Resale's great, but a constant influx and flow of new construction is always a good thing for the marketplace. And home builders have been underproducing for at least a decade now.
Crazy. 'Cause it seems like they're throwing up houses left and right, but the demand is still so high.
Yeah. They're trying to get there, but it's just not really happening for them. And the other side of it is with sales slowing, you'll notice that in our marketplaces, builders are the first ones to get super aggressive when it comes to pricing or incentives or bonuses.
They got to get out.
All of you who have looked online or Googled anything about real estate, when you go onto Instagram or wherever, you're probably getting ads from builders, Toll Brothers, all of them saying, hey, check out all the new homes we have. And we've got all these crazy incentives. They are trying to get that inventory sold because those margins change incredibly with all the different interest rate and cost and inflation and all that sort of stuff. So they're still under the gun. Demand is still strong, especially in metro areas like Portland. Really?
Demand is strong. People want to buy houses. There isn't enough to buy, which is very contradictory.
Yeah. But it's half the demand that we had 2 years ago.
Right.
Yeah. So.
But people will always need to buy homes. They'll always need to. Todd, Vantage Mortgage Group, Todd Gittison, he always says people will always have babies. People are always going to need to, move up their houses, get bigger, more space. And on the other side of that, people are always going to need to sell for certain reasons as well.
Yes. And we are in a cycle right now where it's a, do I really need to sell conversation? Right?
Which is hard.
Or buy. Do I really need to buy or sell? And it comes down to life events, life, births, deaths. But as far as like, I really like that neighborhood, or wow, we need a little bit more space. All those people that over the past 2 years, or more, I would say going back 10 years, those type of choices aren't happening anymore. It's more of, I got a better job in Boise that's paying me, 40% more than what I'm making here in Hillsboro or Portland. And I got to do that. So, yep, I'm going to sell. So a lot of buyers off the table. Mortgage lending is solid, unlike 2008. Yeah, I would go with that.
Okay.
Yeah, that one feels good. Strict lending standards in place since Dodd-Frank. Maybe too strict. Maybe too strict, I'm going to go ahead and say.
It is so hard to get pre-approved right now.
Our mortgage broker friends are like, can we get half as much paperwork?
Yeah.
That feels awful, I'm sure.
But this is good. That's why these rules are in place.
Yeah, and the whole risky subprime loans and all that sort of stuff, that is long gone. And, people that have fears about that coming back, that's not happening. So,
what do you think about when people say that homeowners today have more equity than ever before?
Do they?
Depends on when they bought their house. Because
depends on how often they're refied.
Right.
The fact that when interest rates were at 3% and a lender says, yeah, sure, we can refinance you from your 5, 6, 7% mortgage down to 3%, and look how that's going to change your payment. And oh yeah, you could take $50,000 out in equity and still have 20% down. And how many people said, I don't need that extra $50,000, right? So I think that equity number is a little bit less than a lot of people think. And there are a lot of people that haven't taken any equity out and have just kind of sat on it. Maybe they refied to the lower number and now they're like sitting really pretty. So the other dynamic in our marketplace, Mac, is appreciation rates on a $300,000 home, right? If you get if you got 5% for 3 years, compound that out, whatever that number is. If you had $1 million home and we're getting 5%, compound that out. So you see the difference in equity. And that's part of where we're at right now, is that a lot of luxury home buyers and a lot of buyers and sellers in the $1 million plus, $1.5 million plus have an exponentially larger number to work with, which makes their down payments, they may be buying bigger, they may not, but it's a bigger number, and they're less interest rate sensitive, right?
Well, that's proven to be true in what we're seeing in that market right now.
So we're seeing luxury market really take off. It's really outpaced what the normal market is able to do right now. Let's talk about one of the other 3 key reasons the market is maybe crashing, not crashing: foreclosures and distressed sales. What do you think?
Well, there's less foreclosures now than there were in 2007, 2008. Hopefully you have enough equity in your house that if you realize that foreclosure might be coming, that you can sell it quickly.
There's a lot more resources, a lot more tools in place for people to get help. And also the numbers bear out that it's just not an issue right now. In our marketplace or nationally, even if they're ticking up a little bit fractionally, it's still nowhere near what we saw back in 2007, 2008. So I just don't think that's an issue at all. Interest rates are high, but that's stabilizing the market, some people say.
It's making us insane.
It is making us insane. They say higher rates slow appreciation, but don't cause crashes.
Well, like you said, it's been a slow burn. I mean, that is what has happened.
Yeah, for sure. And, the fact is, a lot of people are saying that rates aren't going to get down below 6.5 or 6. Who knows, right? But I wouldn't be surprised if they were somewhere between 6 and 6.5. How much does that help people? Well, when they're 7, 7.5, certainly better to be down there. But for all those people that are sitting on a 2.5, 3.5% mortgage, looking at a 6.5 is not going to be super appealing. So I don't think rates are, this big lever in the whole thing.
What do you think about when people talk about buyer psychology and how people are just adjusting to the new normal? Because, people who maybe wanted to buy last year, the year before, and they went to try, get pre-approved, and they saw the interest rates and they looked at their monthly payment, they probably freaked out and decided they couldn't afford it and then decided to save. So maybe those folks will come into play this year or the year after. I don't know.
I think there's definitely a contingent of those people that, said, now's not the right time. I'm going to save up more money and come back better prepared. Maybe rates will be better. Yeah. And, they may have rolled the dice and saved a half point, maybe a point. But I don't think there's a ton of those people out there. The psychology point, I think, speaks to consumer confidence. People will only buy a home if they have a job, know they're going to have a job for a while, and feel like their finances are situated in a way where they can afford the payment, right? And if you're looking at your monthly bills and the price of groceries, the price of eggs seem to be a hot button right now.
It's a really hot button.
I know.
Everyone's going to have chickens.
I want chickens.
I do too.
No, I want you to have chickens.
No, I want you to have chickens.
I want you to have chickens so I can buy eggs from you.
You don't have to buy them from me. But
because I don't want chickens at my house.
That would be chaos.
It would be chaos.
There's already enough sheepdogs around here.
Oh, I got plenty of sheepdogs. Yeah. So, but I think that, people look at all that, all the expenses they have, and they're like, how can I afford to have a larger house payment or having a house payment at all? And that's a tough one. So, we'll see. So what buyers and sellers should do now, I think for buyers, you can always have a good opportunity in any different situation. We talk about 2008 to 2010, how awful that was, but people were still buying homes.
Right.
And you could get a heck of a deal on something, and a lot of those people did extremely well. The other thing is, if you've put yourself in a position to buy, but you're worried about rates or something like that, you can buy now, refinance later. So the rent versus buy conversation, I know you and I talk about that.
That's also a hot topic right now.
That is a hot topic right now. I just don't see how the math doesn't look good for buying, right? Renting, holy smokes.
It's gotten outrageous.
It's so expensive.
But so is a mortgage right now.
So is a mortgage.
So that's tough.
So for buyers, it's an individual choice, like we always say, but don't be afraid to explore that choice.
Right.
Right? Because there are opportunities out there. And sellers are more willing than ever to, especially if it's been on the market a little while, to help you out a little bit with closing costs.
Right. And maybe it's not your dream home right away, but you can sit on it for 5 to 7 years and sell and buy your dream home.
Yeah, exactly.
But like Joe said, we're never going to recommend something that's not good for you. And it never hurts to just play out scenarios. So even if you want to, get pre-approved and we just sit on it and we wait and we try to find something that's a perfect match, we're happy to do that.
Yeah, for sure. For sellers, I think pricing is everything right now. Even if you have a top 1% home, meaning of all the homes in your price point, like if you have a home that's in the $700,000 price range, and compared to all the other $700,000 homes, yours is the absolute best. Well, if you put it at, $795,000, you may get some problems there.
Yeah.
So you just got to be smart about pricing. And then
we really, not to cut you off, but we really think it's a happy medium, right? Like we want you to get the most that you possibly can for your home. That is always our wish for you, but we just have to be really realistic about the market right now. So just like buyers, we play out scenarios. We give you a low risk, high risk price before we go on the market. And if that sounds good to you, then we'll go with it. And if you want to wait, that's totally fine.
And it's always up to you as the seller. If you want to take on more risk on sitting on the market, great. There have been occasions where we've been wrong, where we thought there's no way this house is ever going to sell for more than 500. And it did.
2 years later. 2
years later. That one time that we were wrong. No, I'm kidding. That sounds arrogant. But, 99% of the time we're right on that.
Right.
All right. So it's a tough situation because everyone wants to get the highest value, but it's a tipping point. If you go over the edge, you can be in a real problem, because then you're on the market for a while, then you reduce your price, and then someone says, you've been on the market for too long. I'm not going to give you full price. And then you're down below even where you thought you'd have it sold. Right. And we recommend it usually. So anyways, all of this kind of feeds into the final thing that we're going to talk about, which is probably why you tuned into this episode, which is the market going to crash? Is the housing market going to crash? Mac, you say absolutely not. 100%, right? You look so scared of what I'm going to say right now.
I have to be optimistic.
Yeah, of course. We always have to be optimistic.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to crash. People are very, very divided on that right now, just like everything else. So it's kind of a wait and see thing.
Yeah. And I'm trying not to give a non-answer, but here's the thing about real estate. Real estate is a very, very fragile thing. Very fragile. And that's the one thing I've learned over the past 30 years is that if, a lot of these articles that like the JP Morgan one we were talking about, they're like, yep, somewhere between 6 and 6.5, and inventory is going to increase a little bit, and the market's going to grow by 3.1135%.
Because we live in a vacuum.
Yeah. And that's all fine and dandy if we did live in a vacuum, but we don't. And with real estate being so fragile, like many things in our lives, it can be affected by all sorts of different things. And for me, I always look at it as interest rates are one thing, but there's also the economy, there's inflation, there's craziness, like when we had the pandemic, right? Didn't sell many houses sitting in our own houses for 6 months, did we? Right?
I wasn't a part of real estate then. I feel really sorry for you during that time.
A lot of Zoom happy hours.
That's true. Oh.
Yeah. Many of you out there remember that. That was fun. Was not. But I guess my point is, you never know what's going to happen. We just had a change in administrations in the government. There's a lot of change going on. Markets don't like change. Housing don't like change. Michaela don't like change. So things are going to be bumpy for a while. And I think that's going to be kind of normal. To say there's going to be a crash like a 2008, I don't think so. Right? There's a lot of things in place that safety nets, different things that are going on. I don't see that type of thing happening, but at the same time, I also don't see the JP Morgan, everything's in a vacuum and hunky-dory and let's go have,
No, he's not going to call
coffee
it.
and donuts. No. But I think we need to be prepared for if things do go a little bit sideways with some, what do they call it, a black swan event? Something out of nowhere. Have you ever heard of that thing?
No, but
Yeah.
I really wish I could remember it for you.
Yeah, it's called Black Swan event. Yeah, okay. And it's just something that comes out of nowhere. So the long and short, my non-answer is: do I think there's going to be a housing crash? No, not like we had in 2008, 2010. Do I think it'll be a bumpy road? Yes, I do. But with that comes opportunity for buyers, and also opportunity for sellers, and also opportunity for brokers like you and I, who, when people get scared and still need to do something, they are going to choose quality. They're going to choose professionalism. They're going to choose representation that represents their best interest, right? And so,
that's our goal.
Quality brokers doing good professional work will always be in demand. So that's why I don't worry too much about any of this, because how much of it can we control, Michaela?
I can control if I get out of bed.
You can control if you have a margarita after this, after listening to my rant.
Oh, absolutely I will be.
Yeah. But what we can't control is what's going to happen in the marketplace and what's going to happen with the economy and all that sort of stuff. So,
right. We're just going to stay optimistic.
We will stay optimistic. So, anyways.
I hope this wasn't too depressing.
Hey.
It shouldn't be depressing.
If, the one thing that we tell, and this is probably a good thing to share, the thing that we tell people when we sit in their homes and they're, interviewing us to see if they want us to represent them.
Who wouldn't want us to represent?
Right. Come on. And we tell them that, we're going to 100% all the time give you the non-varnished truth and give you the facts, because you're making very difficult decisions about what you're going to do, buying a home, selling a home. All of these things deeply affect you, your finances, your family, all of that. And you need to have the right information and get opinions from people you trust that are accurate and are honest. So we will never, ever candy coat things. We'll give you the 100% facts. And I think that's what this podcast was, is, people are saying this.
The unvarnished inside truth. Sorry, not to cut you off.
Is that our title?
It is.
Huh. I need to look at that more. Go figure. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we're coming from with this. So if anyone wants to have a conversation about it, give us a call.
We're here.
We're here. Happy to help. And pretty busy these days.
We actually are pretty busy.
Yeah. It's very nice. So we appreciate everyone's trust in us, and we hope that you're in a good situation and that we can help out sometime in the future.
Thanks for joining us today. If you're interested in finding out more about Joe, myself, or the LivPortland team, you can go to livportland.com. Thanks for giving us a listen, and see you next time on the Off the Record podcast.